What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like, subscribe as you tune into the channel, check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about this series right here is going on, and I'm really surprised that well, like how this series is turning out. That New York is really up. What are they up 2-0, right? And I'm also more surprised by the performance of Karl Anthony Towns, right? Because I knew that like somebody was gonna have to get physical with Wembanyama and and just because he's not a big guy, just really just put their body on him. And Karl Anthony Towns, I didn't really expect Karl Anthony Towns to play like that because Karl Anthony Towns to me is more so of a finesse player. But Karl Anthony Towns, in my opinion, is the difference in this series. Jalen Brunson is the man. He's still the man, but he hasn't really so far this series been able to get off the way people thought that the Knicks was going to need him to get off for this series to be even close. Now you see Karl Anthony Towns look like he is unstoppable against Wembanyama, right? And so I was listening to the Run It Back podcast, and they had Tim Legler on there, with their regular cast and crew, and Tim Legler was talking about the series too. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to play the audio from that, then I'm gonna come back and react to it.
Best video.
The 2-3.
All right, Tim Legler joining us fresh off the call of the game one and finals in San Antonio. First of all, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm great. Listen, after what we experienced as a crew, broadcast crew, with all the blowouts we had to watch through the last two rounds, we were just glad to look up at the start of the fourth quarter, and we actually had a game that was winnable either way. We haven't had many of those in the postseason, at least not our group. So I was just excited for that. We had meaningful possessions in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. By the way, any nerves on your part? I mean, this is your first calling finals, yeah?
Honestly, no. And it's everybody was asking me that. Like, my wife asked me that. I've talked to her right before I went out to the court. And she's like, "Are you nervous?" I said, "No." It really, honestly, done it so much. To me, it's always going to come down to the same thing. At the end of the day, you're watching a basketball game. And I've been doing it, communicating what I'm watching for a long time, 25 years at this place and in this industry. So, no, honestly, for me, it felt like, hey, once you sit down and that ball goes in the air, it's the same as it is every night. Obviously, more people are watching, there's more scrutiny, the stakes are raised, but you're still just commenting on what you see and what your eye is catching as an analyst.
God, and you got Breen. Like, I mean, it's such a good place to be, and RJ's there, but that's fine. But Breen is like the obvious, like the star here on taking care of things. Let me ask you this. We were just having a conversation, they were, honestly, about whether or not using the idea that Wemby is tired is a valid talking point today as far as what we saw last night. What do you think?
Listen, there's no doubt it's a valid talking point because we saw it right there. And there's times, sometimes even we can see things because we're sitting there that maybe the cameras aren't going to catch. He was winded and gassed. There were times that he was really having a hard time like catching his wind. And so there's some of that was there. But for me, when I look at it from the Spurs point of view, they did not get him to the spots that he likes to catch the basketball as often as he was in previous rounds, certainly as much as he did in the Western Conference Finals. And it's not like they're out there playing in a vacuum, so you've got to give the Knicks credit. They were physical with him. That's one of the best defensive games I've seen any big man play against Victor Wembanyama this year, what Karl Anthony Towns did to him in this game. But I thought the initiation of their offense wasn't as good as it needs to be. Mitch Johnson said it after the game. We were saying it during the broadcast. He's got to get the basketball more at that elbow extended area where one dribble he can be at the rim from a face-up position. He was not setting ball screens like inside the three-point line where that first roll puts so much pressure on the back line. It opens up three-point shooting. I just didn't think overall he was catching the ball where he likes to.
All right, so I agree with Tim Legler, right? But I think also what's hurting Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs is the fact that throughout the season and even into the playoffs, they just so used to allowing Victor Wembanyama to handle the ball so far away from the basket. And I didn't know that it was going to affect him in this series against the Knicks because, like I said, usually Karl Anthony Towns is not really a basketball player, but when you have a big man like like Wemby, who can play so far away from the basket, eventually that's going to bite you. Is going to come back and bite you on the backside because now the defense can set up for you. Number one, number two, I would rather you're playing into the defense's hand. You got a big man, somebody 7 feet 5 inches tall, playing so far away from the basket. You're playing into their hands. You're letting them off the hook. Then when he tried to go down into the paint, Karl Anthony Towns put that big body on him, and it's hard for him to operate down there. And he's not used to people. Most teams don't play him like that. Most teams don't have somebody like Karl Anthony Towns who has that big body who can lean on him all the way, like all the way around. Once he get into that painted area, Karl Anthony Towns is just leaning on him constantly, and so I have been saying all season long that Victor Wembanyama is good for the NBA because he's going to make teams level up and bring back guys like the power forwards, guys who can lean on him all over they're not going to chase him all over the court. But once he get into that painted area, those guys, people are going to really start getting physical with him because he's not really all that strong. When he went up against OKC, he went up against Chet Holmgren, who is not as strong as he is, who is actually weaker than he is. And then on top of that, Chet is not even as tall as he is, right? So that was his advantage. He was able to dominate that matchup. But as soon as you put somebody on him who is stronger than him and, and can beat up on him and lean on him, then that just changes the game. Remember, Victor Wembanyama all throughout the regular season was playing less than 30 minutes a game, right? And so now you got a more physical basketball player on him, a big body on him, and you got him logging more minutes because now you need him in there, right? And so that's it's going to be hard for him to adjust right now in real time. So that's the biggest issue I see right here. As far as him catching the ball in places where he's comfortable at, that like Tim Legler said, all right, you catching the ball in places where you're comfortable. That's if they allow you to catch the ball there. They want him to shoot threes. They want him to try to break people down off the dribble from the top of the key. I knew that this was going to come back and bite the Spurs. I just didn't know it was going to bite them in this series.
I think that's going to be a major adjustment for the Spurs for game 2.
And what about defensively, Legs? Like we talk about him getting tired, his usage rate on both sides of the ball is going to keep exhausting him. But like, do they take him off Towns? Do they let him float more with Josh Hart? But then who guards Towns? Like, how do they make that adjustment to keep him from getting so tired?
Yeah, Chandler, that's a great question. And going into it, I went back and watched all of the 3 previous games of the regular season. And I know the playoffs, you're removed from that. Both of these teams take on new identities now, but still it matters kind of. Personnel was out there. Wembanyama played in those games. So I wanted to see like how he attacked the Knicks. And they did have him on Josh Hart a lot. He was guarding him. He was kind of hanging at the edge of the lane, hovering, playing center field. There weren't that many possessions where that was the case last night. He was guarding Karl Anthony Towns. And I'm going to give Cat a lot of credit in this regard. He went at him. He took 7 shots in his first 11 minutes of playing time, and a couple of them were jumpers, but most of it was the straight line, hard drive at him when Wembanyama closed out. That's a lot to ask. I know he's got great length and all that. We talk about it all the time. But when you're talking about helping on guard penetration, the ball's kicked out to Karl Anthony Towns at 27 feet, and you've got to run from basically the middle of the lane on a hard closeout. And now Cat's putting it down and coming right back at you and getting an angle on you to the rim. That's an awful lot for a guy that size to change directions and move. And Towns takes that shoulder, he puts it into your chest as he's driving. I just think that Karl Anthony Towns played a great game on both ends of the floor against Wemby. And we're not used to seeing bigs take on that assignment on both ends and have as much success as Cat did in this game.
Yeah, and I think another thing I want to bring to when you have, like I said, Wemby is not used to that physical play. And they're wearing Wemby down on both ends of the court. Karl Anthony Towns is going at him. I just think that this series right here is going to be tough for the Spurs to recover from this. They're down 2 games to nothing. They're going back to New York. That New York crowd is it's almost going to be just like a college type atmosphere where the fans just going to be crazy. That's going to be hard for the Spurs to deal with.
I think, Chandler, to your point, I thought they wore him out defensively as well because he was guarding Cat all over the floor. Look for an adjustment in game 2 also to be maybe Josh Hart a little bit more and help her near the.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say. The same looks that New York played them during the regular season. The same, and I think this goes to coaching, right? The same looks that New York gave them during the regular season, they're not getting that, and so they switched it up. And so maybe going into those games during the regular season, New York was like, we're not going to show them what we're really going to do. Like if it comes down to us and them, like you're getting a whole different look from New York than they did during the regular season when they played them. So when when the Spurs go back and look at film and say, all right, okay, we had success doing this against them. This is how they like to play us. And that's not, all of that is out the window because Mike Brown, Josh Hart is not really playing against this. He's not matching up with Wemby. You got the big boy on Wemby, Karl Anthony Towns, and he's leaning on him. Then he's getting help. Like when Wemby tried to put the ball on the floor, those smaller guys are down there waiting for him to dribble so they can take the ball away from him. That's old school basketball. That's how, that's why you didn't have guys like Ralph Sampson. And a lot of times I compared Ralph Sampson. I was like, look, Wemby is just like Ralph Sampson. Ralph Sampson was a hell of an athlete. But Ralph Sampson, no way in the NBA they're going to allow Ralph Sampson to break somebody down off the dribble at 7 feet 5 inches tall and dribble the ball 3, 4, 5 times to get to the lane and dunk on people. It wasn't going to happen, and the NBA is going to cut that out from Wemby. Like Wemby is going to have to make his game. He's going to have to be more efficient and learn how to get position inside the paint. And that's what Karl Anthony Towns and the New York Knicks has exposed. Like that is, they're going to dictate. Because at 7 feet 5, you can't come from the paint. Outside the 3-point line and penetrate all the way to the glass in the NBA. It's not going to work like that. So, and I don't care how well you handle the ball, it just don't work like that. So they really just, like I said, he's getting exposed. I don't know how Wemby is going to adjust to this. Like if he's strong enough to carve out position in the paint right now, because that's what they're going to need him to do, to be strong enough to carve out the position that he wants. If he can't carve out that position that he wants or need in that paint for him to be successful, it's not going to work for the Spurs. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, check y'all out in the next video. Peace.